WCTM. My name is Lyra, and today we're joined by Dr. Darren Renko, Chair of Native American Programs, Associate Professor of Anthropology, and Coordinator of Native American Research with the University of Maine, Orono. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Really looking forward to this.
Darren, my first question is, could you please review how many federally recognized tribes there are in Maine?
Yeah, of course. It's good first question. If folks don't know, we have five tribal communities, different tribal governments, and four tribal nations. And so I'll list them going from south to north. Let's see if I can do this. I'm a citizen of the Penobscot Nation, so that's the first one. That's right, near Old Town. The next community would be the Passamaquoddy tribe at Pleasant Point. Sabayak is the term they use for that community, and that's over by Eastport. There's also the Passamaquoddy tribe at Indian Township, also called Madocmagook, and that's near Princeton, Maine. And then we have the two northern tribes, the Holton Band of Maliseet Indians, which is right next to Holton, and then the Aroostook Band of Micmacs, which is has their tribal center in Presque Isle, just outside of Presque Isle. So those are the five communities, two Passamaquoddy communities, and then the four tribal nations.
Could you please explain, for teens and preteens, what is a treaty?
Yeah, a treaty is, it's such a great question. A treaty is basically an agreement between two sovereign entities.
Could you explain, for teens and preteens, how the U.S. Constitution treats Native Americans and why this is important today?
And there's not a lot in the Constitution about Indians. There's a couple of things, and some of this is mimicked in the state of Maine Constitution. But in the original Constitution, Indians are in what is called the Indian Commerce Clause. It basically says that the federal government, not the states, will regulate relationships and economics and commerce with Indians. And then in the 14th Amendment, it sort of talks about Indians as being voters, but exempts Indians from being voters, electors, people who can vote. This idea of Indians that are not taxed, quote unquote, are not allowed to vote. And this language is also in the state of Maine Constitution.
When Maine separated from Massachusetts in 1820 to become a state, how did the Maine state constitution treat Native Americans?
So, right. Yeah, see, I anticipated your question here. So the first way that they did in the Constitution was, again, who can vote. Of course, in 1820, there was a whole bunch of people who couldn't vote, including women, that now are able to vote. But Indians not taxed. So this idea of Indians in their own territory and on their own reservations in their own lands would not have access to voting. That's one place. And then in Article 10 of the Constitution, specifically Section 5, it also recognizes that the state of Maine is responsible for all the treaties that the state of Massachusetts had made with the tribes here, and that's one of the that's probably the primary area where the state of Maine has broken that promise, where they did not honor the treaties. And what's interesting about that part of the state constitution, at some point towards the end of the 19th century, a law was passed making it illegal to print that part of the state constitution, and we've been trying to figure out how directly that is tied to Native people trying to claim rights under these treaties in of themselves. So I and a bunch of other scholars are really trying to figure out if that was very much on purpose. It seems like it is, but it's a really interesting question about our history, and one that most people don't know of. Like, why would they exempt a certain part of our Constitution from being printed and being communicated across the state?
You have kind of already answered this, but my fifth question is this, did the state of Maine honor its own constitution?
Well, they didn't allow us to vote, so in some ways that's true. They did honor that part of it. and they did not honor these it's part of the Constitution called the Articles of Separation from the state of Massachusetts, and then really did not honor those treaties. And what's interesting in that language, it talks about honoring, being tied to these treaty obligations without consent, right? So there'd be some, a mutual agreement, but it also includes a discussion that for some of this, the state of Massachusetts would also have to consent to changes in these in these treaties. So no one in the state of Maine, newly separated, wanted to go to the state of Massachusetts and get an agreement. But you see this, the implications of this happening in court cases by tribes throughout the 19th century, trying to protect lands um, guarantee treating rights for fishing and hunting and that sort of thing.
And my final question is the Maine Bicentennial an opportunity to move forward and make things better? What can youth and families do to be good allies to Wabanaki peoples?
One of the things that I've been really working on, again with a host of other scholars and teachers, is to tell this 200 years of Maine in ways that really recognizes Wabanaki people and participation in this history, and also to create a Native point of view on that history, that in some ways the state of Maine is something that happened to us as Wabanaki people. We pre-existed that. We pre-existed the state of Massachusetts as well, and the United States altogether. So I think seeing our this 200 years of Maine from that perspective, actually, as a teacher, opens up all sorts of interesting pathways for understanding. And I think that's what, if you think about it that way, it sheds light on a lot of the things that tribes are really seeking right now in terms of sovereignty, or sort of this independence of, we get to decide our own futures as tribes. And there's a whole host of educational opportunities to learn more about those things. A lot of them have to do with environment and protecting our environment, which I know a lot of young people are really concerned with, but the tribes have been protecting the environment in what is now Maine for thousands of years. So we have a pretty long track record of that. And so really engaging in places that are of critical cultural importance. So there's all sorts of interesting pathways for both youth and families to be good allies. I think knowing the history is one of those things. Engaging with it, having discussions about it, really thinking about the benefits of, in the state of Maine, we now have, it's no longer Columbus Day, it's Indigenous Peoples Day. I think thinking about Indigenous Peoples Day instead of, or maybe even alongside. I'm very interested in people still thinking about Columbus within the context of us as Wabanaki people and sort of what that means. So I think you're really learning and education are key things, and just raising awareness in your communities. Once you learn something, there's you're not just a bystander to this history and knowing it, but you're also to use some folks that I work with sometimes, an upstander, right? You're also motivated and obligated to share your knowledge within your community.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Darren, and thank you for sharing all of this valuable information. My name is Lara with WCTM. Thank you for watching.